It's the eCommerce Master Plan podcast. Here to help you solve your marketing problems and grow your e-commerce business. Cutting through the hype to bring you inspiration and advice from the e-commerce sector and beyond. Here's your host, Chloe Thomas.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the eCommerce Master Plan podcast. I'm Chloe, the creator and host of this award-winning show, and it's my aim in every episode to help you find ways to improve your e-commerce business. So thank you for tuning in. In today's episode, we're talking about adapting to the changing markets we find ourselves in with a complicated B2B and B2C business. Before we get into all of that though, please do check out the sponsors. This podcast is brought to you by Klaviyo, the ultimate e-commerce marketing platform for email and SMS messaging. Whether you're launching your e-commerce business or taking your brand to the next level, Klaviyo gives you the tools to get growing faster. That's why it's trusted by over 38,000 e-commerce brands. Build your contact list, send emails that pop, and create marketing moments that build valuable customer relationships over any distance. Get started for free today. Visit klaviyo.com/masterplan to create your free account. That's klaviyo.com/masterplan. Did you know that e-commerce visitors who search can convert between 4 to 6 times more than the others? And that 50% of your e-commerce turnover can be generated by users who search? Turn your search bar into a powerful sales weapon and install DoFinder, an advanced site search technology that can help you increase your online sales up to 20%. Don't believe it? Well, go to dofinder.com/masterplan to sign up for a free 30-day trial and join the 5,000 plus e-commerce sites around the world that already use it. And now to introduce today's special guest. Andrew Steele is the e-commerce director at Charles Bentley. Founded 160 years ago as a manufacturer of chimney sweeping brushes, they now balance selling brushes and cleaning products via wholesale and dropshipping and running their own home and garden e-commerce store, employing over 150 people and manufacturing over 2 million brushes a year, has all made dealing with the challenges of the pandemic particularly interesting. Hello, Andrew.
Hi, Chloe. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. When I started this podcast, did I think I'd be speaking to a company who started off making chimney sweep brushes? No, I didn't. But I'm excited to find out more about the world of brushes as we go through today. But how did you yourself get started in e-commerce?
I married the boss's daughter. Yeah, simple as that. So I started in the business in 2005. So I'm actually the 6th generation of the family, so to speak now. So Charles Bentley, my father-in-law, and so he took over the family reins sort of into the 80s. I finished university, had a marketing degree, wrote my dissertation on how the internet would affect marketing strategies and SMEs, and joined the family firm. Little did I know, I'd still be here 15 years later.
Wow. So the easy employment option after university turned into something a bit long term.
That's right. Yeah. I've never looked back since.
And were you looking after, obviously your dissertation was on how online will change marketing. So this is quite early in the story of e-commerce. Did you go into it thinking this is a business that needs e-commerce, or I can see an opportunity here? Or is that something that just kind of evolved into your role over the years?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think like most graduates at the time, I was, looking for the dream marketing job. Obviously, I had an interest in online and internet selling, and obviously buying as well. And you're right to say it was quite early, I suppose, in sort of the e-commerce era. When I started in the family firm, we went traveling around the world, came back, started to work. I suppose as a sort of a very junior marketeer. The business didn't actually have a marketing department as such, it had quite a good sales department. And I was kind of persuaded Charles to give me a bit of a shot. And that was my my way in, if you like. And we started to sell some products on eBay, and that was our kind of first online transaction, if you like. And we obviously have grown the business to where it is today from those initial sort of learnings.
And you started off selling the products you were manufacturing, i.e. the brushes, but the B2C side has now grown to sell a lot of products that I'm guessing, having had a look around, that you're not manufacturing, but you're actually buying in. So that's quite a development.
Yeah, I think absolutely 100%. At the time, we sold. It was actually an equestrian grooming set that we sold online. It was our first product. We made horse grooming brushes, and we got a fairly sort of, I suppose, healthy gain from that from eBay. And I think at the time, we were dealing with some of the bricks and mortar stores, some of the big four supermarkets, the garden sheds, and Charles was always looking for where could be the next area of growth for the business. I think also, diversifying the business and spreading the risk is always a good thing in business. And I guess, I was the right person at the right time, at the right place to really start to move that forward. We were going to the Far East, or Charles and my wife were going to the Far East to trade exhibitions. So, we had developed quite a sort of enhanced brushware and cleaning product portfolio. And some other products kind of ventured their way into that. I think garden gas patio heaters was one of the first ones. And I remember selling those successfully on eBay in 2005. And it really sort of spurred on, how we could sort of venture more into e-commerce. We're a very good sort of sales business. We made products, we're not particularly great at marketing. And I think, eBay as a route to market was obviously very, very easy to go and sell. And it just opened up our mindset about other areas we could invest, which is why you see such a, I suppose, change in the profile of the product you see today online.
It's quite interesting, isn't it, that nowadays quite often people will test out a new product that they've created on a marketplace, be it Amazon, be it eBay, and then if that takes off, they'll go into creating their own store. So it's quite interesting that 15 years ago, that was the same route that now highly successful e-commerce businesses had taken to kind of test it out and to get used to the ways of dealing with, with shipping one brush instead of a box of brushes, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very easy way to dip your toe in the water. I think it's a lot harder to go and set up a marketplace business as it probably was back then. The world has changed. It's more global, far much more international competition. I know plenty of business that starts out at a similar time as us that aren't here today because of the way that the product mix worked, which I can probably go into later. But it's just advancing all the time. Every year has been very, very different.
And now that the business has evolved to where it has, where you're doing drop shipping for some of the large retailers, you're wholesaling, and you've got that home and garden e-commerce store. Do you think, as you said earlier, diversifying the risk, do you think that set you up well for the crazy times we've seen this year?
Yeah, 100%. So we supply, we have a contract with the NHS for cleaning products. So we're, classed as key workers. We're obviously still manufacturing, like you say, over 2 million brooms in the UK, in the middle of England, and Loughborough. We've got about 450 live accounts across marketplaces. So your Amazons, your eBays, your ManoManos, UK and Europe, Cdiscount, Conforama, Allegro in Poland, and others to note coming up soon, as well as the dropship relationships with the original Bentley customers, the Wilcos, the Tesco's, the Homebases, those types of businesses. And I think over the years, the right thing to do was to go and approach those buyers and buyer managers to go and enhance their online offer, as we were obviously experienced with the Amazon, the eBays, and the product portfolio extensions that they all craved, and we were just probably a perfect fit for those businesses over the years.
And with that dynamism, those options within the business, did that mean you were in a place which really made navigating what's happened over the last couple of months with the pandemic a bit easier, or do you think it made it more complicated?
It didn't make it easier, and it's definitely very complicated. I think is the honest answer. The online growth has gone up triple digit growth over the last sort of 4 or 5 months. We hadn't planned for that business growth, or we were, of course, planning for growth. But to transform the business from a manufacturer of brushes and brooms and supplying retailers, and taking those staff as our store business started to decline because the big sheds and some of the supermarkets were focused on other products or they'd shut. The pressures on the business and us as directors to bring people and maneuver people around the business, it was obviously particularly challenging around the April into the March and the April time. Being a quite adverse to what's going on in the Far East as well. We were away on holiday at the time when the first sort of Brits were coming back from with COVID symptoms, and we were kind of understanding what was happening from our own factories in China that we deal with, as well as Sri Lanka and Vietnam. So we were having quite a global view early on of what was going to go on and what the influences within our business could be.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we've had to then completely adapt and change the business model to encompass kind of 2/3 online sales and a third offline sales. So, we've got people from our sales team working in customer service at the moment. We've had to recruit more people. We've taken about 20 warehouse staff on full time over the last few months. So, really gearing up for, I think e-commerce has probably advanced 4 or 5 years. Certainly, we've already hit our 5-year sort of projections, if you like, over the last few months. So, we're very much sort of geared up to that. As we're now starting to see the resurgence, if you like, of those customers and their store retailing. So, the business generally is very, very busy, and obviously the diversity has helped us tremendously over this time.
And have you found that? Because I wondered when I was looking at your site and looking at the products you sell, I was wondering if, given you're so closely linked to the cleaning side of things and the supermarkets are such a big piece of the puzzle, if actually your wholesale activity had not decreased. But it sounds like from what you were just saying that the wholesale did decrease and thankfully the consumer side went up.
Yeah, so you can imagine that the retail buying managers understanding that their stores were going to be shut for a certain amount of time. There was a reluctance to continue to order those products. The fulfillment centres around the country also shut down, so we couldn't actually ship products to them even if we wanted to. The business obviously took the advantage of how we were going to cope with online sales. It's quite difficult because the product's obviously coming from the Far East, so the amount of trading, if you like, completely changed. We obviously have seasonal plans and forecasting, so to accelerate how we were going to go and do that was particularly challenging, especially where, of course, the likes of the Chinese, where we predominantly manufacture products or have product manufactured on behalf. They shut down quite early on, so we had delays in orders. There's some catch up there. We managed to get product in quicker. They caught up very, very quickly when they came back from their holidays. And it allowed us the opportunity to rebuy as well for product that was going out of stock across July and August, especially in barbecues and furniture and the like.
It's kind of every angle. It's like you start thinking and digging into how the pandemic could hit a business, and you go from, okay, so the demand will change, and then you realize actually you've got the demand changes, so who's buying and what they're buying. Then you've got how the team manage it, from reskilling people, as you've already mentioned, but also then keeping them safe whilst you're doing it. And then you've got the back end piece of how do we actually get the product that people want, which is not necessarily just getting in the product you'd already ordered. It's tweaking those orders and changing the mix and dealing with increased demand overall. How did you work out which problem to solve first, I suppose?
Oh, where do I start? I think the first was in here and now. We have to protect the staff. Are we going to be open? There was stuff that was coming out in the news, of course, about manufacturing business and that we could stay open. We've obviously had a tremendous surge in cleaning sort of utility products, both on and offline. We didn't really know to start with how it was going to affect us. I think that's the honest answer. Then it became quite apparent at the end of March into April that online was completely surging. So, we put the resources there. We found suppliers in Europe as well as in the UK, and we played on those products where perhaps we'd come out of stock in the Far East. So we saw a really big uptake in storage boxes. I think our broom sales were 1,000% up, and you can either look at that we sold a lot of brooms, we sold a lot more brooms online, or you can look at it that we sold not that many brooms and then we sold a few more brooms online. But yeah, the broom sales to people's houses was phenomenal. And again, you couldn't go down to your local hardware store and go and buy an 18-inch Cocoa broom, but you could have one delivered to your house for less than £15. And some of the SKU changes are completely different and unheard of, and probably never to be seen again.
It is. I mean, I get why sales of disinfectants and maybe scrubbing brushes, certainly cleaning cloths would go up, but the brooms thing, kind of, to the consumer, there was no point during lockdown when I thought, Gosh, if only I had a broom, I'd feel safer.
I just think, it accelerated because people were, they were locked away in home when they, they couldn't leave their houses or shouldn't have been leaving their houses other than their, once they exercise. And, the British people really embraced, I guess, DIY. We saw a massive surge in paintbrushes as well. And you're in your home for such a long time, aren't you? I think people probably thought that it was the opportunity to clear up, tidy up, paint, decorate. Not going on holiday, not going away for weekends. What else shall we do? Without being able to go to a shop, particularly to go and buy those products, or most shops to go and buy those products. So we're obviously adapted the business for doing more of that type of product, which we wouldn't necessarily have seen as much online. Looking for kits and packs. Obviously, to send one broom in the post is quite expensive in terms of the relation of the courier cost to the actual cost price of the product. So, a £5 broom in store is probably a £10 broom online by the time you ship to someone's house. So there was obviously a need and a request and a desire for people to buy them.
Yeah, so I guess there was quite a bit of re-deals with couriers you have the moment of, right, let's fulfill this demand. And then after, the initial surge happens, it's like, right, how do we make this demand work for us? Which I think is where those working out the right couriers, tweaking prices and so on goes on. Because I think, when a website's doing a certain amount, you don't necessarily pay as much attention to the individual product impact on profitability as you do afterwards. Have you done a bit of that over the last few months?
Yeah, so we've gone up from sort of probably a peak last year. We did about 200,000 parcels in the whole of the financial year, off financial year April to March. So it's 211,000 or something like that. We've done, I think, 200,000 already since the 1st of August. So a massive surge in demand of parcels to pick, pack and ship. I think the courier challenges, they obviously weren't ready for it either. It's obviously well documented in the press that Hermes and DPD are taking lots of people on and developing their own sites across the UK and obviously into Europe as well to be able to distribute this volume of parcel. So it was quite hard to react to that. There was lots of customer service challenge and pressures in our team as well as probably across customer service teams in the UK. Where is my parcel? When's it going to turn up? How quickly were those people tipping trucks? How quickly could they get it to someone's house? So the conversations I've had with plenty of our partners, have been equally sort of challenging in terms of, the demand is there, but how do you serve the demand and give the best customer experience? It's been, particularly challenging.
And right now as we're recording this, it's July, just for everyone who's listening, and you're not listening. You're listening to it a little bit after we've recorded it, and at this point in the UK, we're at a pretty similar level to a lot of the world, which is we are slowly easing our way out of lockdown. But the interesting thing is, despite what the government's trying to make us all do, we all seem to be kind of clinging on to lockdown life. So, I mean, certainly some of the businesses I've been looking at, the sales are not yet really, that sales surge isn't yet declining back to whatever a normal level might be. So Andrew, crystal ball time even, future gazing time, getting my words mixed up. Do you think, are you planning right now for peak to be as up on last year as it was, as the rest of this year so far has been up on last year? Or are you kind of ready for a decline or a rise, or how are you looking towards the future and being prepped for it?
I think if you say peak as Christmas peak, which is I'm assuming what you're asking there, us as a seasonal business, our peak is now.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't necessarily have a huge spike, if you like. We have a slight spike in demand around the Black Friday time, end of November and early December. But the nature of the product, home garden product effectively is our major. It was about 70 odd percent of the sales online. It's in the here and now, but I do think we will see a continued level of sales as a percentage of what we're doing month on month, because I think we've got quite a diverse product mix. We've got better stock availability into the winter than we probably would have done last year. So I think the anticipation of the business is that we will continue to see a surge online. I don't think until there's a vaccine that people are going to feel safe enough to go out into the shops. I think that the business and the brand and what we've done to create the brand equity over the last few years, is going to put us in a good stead. We've got, like I said, about 450 accounts. We've got a fabulous management team now. We're recruiting really good people to help us accelerate the brand and the brand name across the industry. So there's lots of really good things that are happening at the moment to help us continue sales, as well as I suppose respond and react to the demand of the consumer and where they wish to shop.
And it's one of those interesting things. We spoke earlier about how, you deal with the initial surge, and then you have we now need to make this work for us. So we start tweaking things. And then I guess the third stage that I've been seeing businesses go through is how do we capitalize on this new demand? How do we make sure these people buy from us in the future and stick around with us? So have you been investing a lot in making sure they really get who they're buying from and that they're ready to come back to you?
Yeah, it's probably been the biggest challenge for me to see such a surge in demand and not give always the best service. We prided ourselves on the customer experience of buying a Charles Bentley product online. So we've spent lots and lots of time, energy in recruiting people to help serve customers better. So although our experience is it's good, it's not as good as what it should be. I think I'd probably talk for the rest of the retail online industry. Early in lockdown, some of our partners actually shut their websites down because they couldn't cope with the demand. We were never quite at that point, and we were still serving their for their dropship Charles Bentley products on those retail sites. We never quite got to that point, but there were those conversations around how sustainable is it. So we acted fairly quickly. We've actually got 3 times more customer service people than we did this time last year to cope with the demand. And we've also brought in sort of customer relations and process managers to really start mapping out the customer journey, not just through charlesbentley.com and the marketplaces, but through the dropshippers as well. So those retail partners and kind of how we interact with them to give their customer service teams the best experience. Not easy.
No, not easy at all. And it's like a part of me is going, awesome, you brought on 3 times the number of customer service people, because great, you're taking a really proactive approach to making sure you can keep that customer service up there. But of course, it's not like the day they start, they spend the whole day answering customer calls, especially with quite a diverse product range and diverse customer base. So did you have the training in place ready to quickly onboard people, or has that been kind of a bit of a catch-up scenario too?
Yeah, absolutely a catch-up scenario. We've and to throw into the mix home working and home training as well was particularly difficult. So I think like I say, being a fairly small business and grown, we've obviously had to adapt our processes and our procedures to be able to go and train people and train people from afar, on a Zoom or a video conference or whatever it might be. So it has felt particularly painful, really, to try and think, how do you do that so quickly? But we're getting there, and the quick learners. So, we're making much better strides on process note documentation. We've probably involved more people within sales and our buying function, the buyers who are actually sourcing and creating the product. So we've had help across the team. It's been a real sort of team effort, if you like, to react to the demand, whilst trying to do the day job. So there's been plenty of overtime, plenty of weekends, plenty of evenings, really supporting customers and getting them products, getting them advice, getting them feedback. And using tools and software to try and find out where's the whether it's a pre-sale, a post-sale, and how to react accordingly to obviously the demand.
E-commerce Master Plan is supported by some of the greatest companies in the e-commerce sector. Here's a reminder of who they are.
Is brought to you by Klaviyo, the ultimate e-commerce marketing platform for email and SMS messaging. Whether you're launching your e-commerce business or taking your brand to the next level, Klaviyo gives you the tools to get growing faster. That's why it's trusted by over 38,000 e-commerce brands. Build your contact lists and emails that pop and create marketing moments that build valuable customer relationships over any distance. Get started for free today. Visit klaviyo.com/masterplan to create your free account. That's klaviyo.com/masterplan. On average, 15% of searches on online shops return 0 results, but only 1.3% of searches made through DoFinder are not returning results. Knowing that, what are you waiting for? Get your DoFinder 30-day free trial and start offering a better search experience. It can be implemented on all e-commerce platforms such as Shopify, WooCommerce, EKM, VisualSoft. Neil Patel includes DoFinder among the most powerful tools to increase e-commerce sales. Don't hesitate and go to dofinder.com/masterplan to install it in only 5 minutes without coding.
It's time for the top tips round.
Okay, I love this section because it gives me and our listeners some really quick ideas for taking our businesses to the next level. So, Andrew, you ready for the top tips?
Yeah.
Okay, the book top tip. If everyone listening to this podcast agrees to take Friday off and read a book to make their business better, which book would you recommend?
So I'm actually in the middle of a book, really interesting book by Simon Sinek, if you've ever come across him.
I
And
certainly
it's
have.
called Start With Why. And ever since I've sort of picked this up from a speech actually from our e-commerce development company, I eventually did buy the book and started reading it, and I think it really makes you think and focuses you on why are you in business, and why what are you doing, where does your business fit within the realms of others, and it's made me think more and challenge our business more about why are we here and how do we serve our customers best. And I think that would be the one book I'd recommend your readers go out and buy and read. It doesn't take particularly long to read, but it's a really, really good book.
It's an awesome book. So thank you for that as your top tip. Okay, the traffic top tip. Which marketing method do you either prize above all others or think doesn't get the press it deserves?
So until the last 3 months, probably our best marketing method as a conversion was probably affiliates. So we use an affiliate management company. We've changed lots of our banners. We've worked with a couple of them to really sort of drive the traffic to charlesbentley.com. But actually Google PPC, believe it or not, has been our best converting, I suppose, marketing method at the moment. The bounce rate on the website is very, very low compared to what it has been in the past. So PPC, I think the Bing PPC has done quite well. Google's done better. So that's the one that we're pleased with at the moment. And it's converting a lot better to sell on our own website than it is on a marketplace as a percentage of its sales. We actually turned off Amazon advertising on about the 1st of April because we knew we didn't actually have enough stock to serve the demand anyway. So we could obviously flex where we decided to trade based on what the marketing cost was. So,
well, yeah, that's one of the things which I think it's another one of those things you kind of realize as you're going through the process is, oh, hold on, if we haven't got enough stock, who do we want to sell it to? And how do we want to sell it to maximize the margin and make sure you get as much as possible without suddenly doing £100 broom, which would probably be excessive. Okay, the tool top tip. Maybe a collaboration tool, a social media plugin, a phone app, or just a way of working. Is there a cool little tool you use that makes you and your team more efficient from day to day?
I'd probably say our Fresh Desk customer service ticketing system has got to be up there. We brought it in place, I think it was towards this probably January time in 2019. So we've had it for well over 18 months now. Before that, we had sort of multiple outlet mailboxes. So you can imagine it was particularly difficult to manage customer service with a couple of advisors and a bunch of emails in an inbox. So I think putting Freshdesk in to manage customer relationship was particularly advantageous, especially at this time. We could route tickets around pre-purchase or post-purchase. More recently, we've done API development with it to bring in things around carrier management, parcel management. There's a whole bunch of other things that we can do with it. So I'd probably say Freshdesk is up there. I think we use Trello, which is one of my favorites for, I suppose, team projects and team management. So everyone's on sort of Trello within our teams that we can kind of understand what's going on in their sort of to-do list every week. When we have our one-to-ones, it's quite easy to share and see. And share ideas as well.
Like it. And I guess having those cloud-based tools must have made managing things and people during the pandemic that little bit easier.
Yeah, I think so. It goes back to your point around sort of people in the office versus at home now. It's far easier to be doing training, videos, sessions, catch-ups, one-to-ones, those sort of things. And obviously the video conference tools. And I think as well, the other thing to say, and to probably to listeners as well, where we've had those sort of long-term relationships with our dropshippers, those major British retailers, we can now have 3 or 4 Zoom meetings a day, in different parts, with customers in different offices or different homes around the UK. And I don't think we're ever going to go back to having to drive up and down the motorway network to go and see those people as much. The productivity and obviously the environmental impact is absolutely huge. So, we can have a half an hour, chat on trading promotions with, a retailer up in, the Midlands, and half an hour later have exactly the same chat, and catch up with someone down in London. And I think that is here to stay.
Yeah, huge time saver. Okay, the growth top tip. If you met someone today who's focused on growing their e-commerce business from 100 orders per month to 1,000, what would be your number one tip for them?
Plan. Think big. Think big and work backwards. I think, long ago, my first, I suppose, year of running an online business, I used to get the Argos catalogue and I used to flick through it and think, wow, some amazing products here. Look at the price, and we can buy these cheaper in the Far East, and these will fit nice into our range. So I thought quite big early on. So I think you have to have, the grand plan, if you like, and then you have to figure out how you're going to do it. So I still remember getting to our first 100 orders a month and probably our first 1,000 orders a month as well. And it doesn't seem that long ago. And to get to 50,000 orders a month as we're doing now, without having the plan, you should definitely have a 3 or a 5 year plan, a project plan. How are you going to cope with the warehousing? How are you going to cope with the IT? How are you going to cope with the customer service? How are you going to recruit the right people, to help run your business with you? If you don't have that 3 to 5 year plan, you're a bit stuffed.
You are indeed. I love it. Cool. Thank you, Andrew. Now, before we say goodbye, could you let the listeners even know where they can find you and your business on the web and social media, please?
Sure. So you can find us at charlesbentley.com. So we sell products to the UK and Europe. Social media hashtag at Charles Bentley 1860. So come and follow us, see what we're up to, see what the great team are doing.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, thanks so much for being on the podcast today. It's been really cool exploring kind of those high level challenges that the pandemic has caused, and which I know is still causing for many businesses right now. So I know the listeners will have found it interesting. So thank you very much for coming on and sharing.
You're welcome.
No matter how many times I talk to someone about how they're adapting and changing their business, it always floors me just how many different things they have to take care of, how many different things that comes into all of this. The customer service, the supply chain, the team training, the watching out for how demand shifts and how consumer behavior changes. It's crazy. There's so many challenges that come up, but by doing it, it makes the business bigger and stronger and helps it to survive for those over 100 years that they've done so far. To get your hands on the notes from today's show, including the top tips and links to what we've mentioned, then head over to ecommercemasterplan.com/podcast. There you can also add yourself to our email list so you don't miss out on any of the other things I share to help you improve your business. And if you like this episode, then please make sure you check out episode 291 from a few weeks back with Neil Fitzpatrick from Pet Drugs Online, because he talks about changing business and adapting things and even knocking down walls as well. So I think you'll like that one too. Thank you for tuning in to this and every episode of the eCommerce Master Plan podcast. It's great to know I'm helping so many of you because I bring you a new interview every week because I want to inspire and help as many e-commerce business owners as possible to succeed and thrive with their business. So please do tell the other e-commerce business owners you know, because I'd love to help them too. I hope you have a great week. Keep optimizing.
Thank you for listening to the eCommerce Master Plan podcast. Find out more at ecommercemasterplan.com/podcast.